Welcome back to Echo Ridge. Today, well, just like every other episode, we have a lot to do. I think we're going to have two starting priorities. The first one is going to be this Dreco Ranch, which I just realized I don't need the duplicants to be going in a liquid lock just to be able to take care of the Drecos. I've just sort of gotten in this habit because where I'm going to place them up here, where all the excess Dreco eggs are going to be, is going to need to be in a liquid lock. For the simple reason, the whole room is going to be filled with hydrogen. In this room, though, only the top part is going to be the hydrogen, and I think the rest of it is just going to be oxygen. I don't know why, but for some reason when I'm growing mealwood in here, I've always put it in a bath of carbon dioxide, and I can't remember for the life of me why I used to do that. The other priority has to do with the geyser we dug up at the end of the last episode, and it turned out to be a natural gas geyser, which is a little interesting because, well, we have another natural gas geyser over here. So it seems to me that we are going to need to be going with some natural gas generators. Now, power on this planetoid is not going to be an issue regardless. We're going to have so many duplicants, we could set up a bunch of wheels and they would take care of the power. But in the case of, for instance, the natural gas geyser, we want to do this because we're going to be able to take all this natural gas, run it through natural gas generators, and yeah, get some power, but more importantly, get some more polluted water from it. That polluted water, obviously, once it goes through a water sieve, will also give us some polluted dirt, which we can then throw into some sublimation stations to produce more oxygen. Now, we could be taking that polluted dirt and feeding it to poke shells, which in turn would give us other things. For instance, if we used oak shells, they'd give us some wood, and when they ate the polluted dirt, they would give us some sand. In the case of the sandy shells, they would also give us some sand, but also some raw shellfish. And then the OG lobster would eat the polluted dirt, and their molts would give us some lime, and of course, they would give us some sand. So we might run some poke shells, but I don't think we're going to run too many, for the simple reason that on our main planetoid, although we have not found it yet, we do have a saltwater geyser and a cool salt slush geyser, which means we're going to be getting more salt than we know what to do with. Well, I say that, but we're going to be taking that salt, crushing it into the rock crusher, and getting a lot more sand, plus some table salt. But the important part of that is getting all that sand, because then we can take it and continuously feed more water sieves, thus completing the circle of life from all the polluted water we're going to be getting from the natural gas geysers. Now, eventually, I'll have to do some math to figure out how much polluted water we are averaging for these geysers, so I can take that into account. Because at the end of the day, it just means more O2. But the great thing about the geysers is we're going to be getting oxygen not only from the polluted water they're producing, but also the polluted dirt coming out of the polluted water when we run it through a water sieve. So Drecos, natural gas generators, and of course, I need to start building another SPAWM already. Update on the SPAWM, we're staying a little bit ahead of the hydrogen curve, so we're not seeing any hydrogen in our oxygen pipes quite yet, but it's not as close as I'd like it to be. So not only am I going to add another natural gas generator, no, we're not building it out of gold. Just realized this one's built out of gold and it doesn't need to be. Give me some of that gold back. We're going to change the material here into copper ore. And then I'm going to hook up a system where one of the hydrogen generators is going to be automated to provide power to this grid. Once it gets too full, we'll burn the excess. Right now, we have a couple of different power grids, two for the main part of the base, one over here for our quasi-industrial metal refinery area, but we will eventually want to upgrade this into a major power network complete with a power spine, especially when we start having all this natural gas, but we have a little bit of time before we have to worry about that. Another thing on the agenda, of course, is more exploration, to include finding out what this vent or geyser is. Now, because I haven't said it in a little while, yes, I do know that I could take this geyser, put it on an emergency, and then just highlight over this little yellow alert symbol. I don't like to do that, because I like the adventure of the duplicants going to undig it and revealing what it is. But every once in a while, I do have to remind everybody that yes, I do know that trick, I just choose not to use it. But to each their own. So I think we're going to make a whole big mess by just running right through here. Yeah, this is going to be nice. The dupes, of course, are going to get the itchy eyes. What else is new? But more importantly, we'll get a new geyser. We're going to need some ladders there, some ladders there. That'll work out just fine. And now to plan where the next spawn is going. I'm probably not going to highlight much of the construction of this spawn other than location stuff, because I have to make the episodes somewhat interesting. And if every episode that I'm building a spawn, I'm repeating it, well, I'm pretty sure you'd get tired of that. I like the idea of using this hydro cooler. Yes, that's the term that we've came up with, or rather that I selected from the comments. Hydro cooler just sort of rolls off the tongue, is fun, and perfectly describes what it does. So that is definitely an option. We also have all these wheezeworts that are naturally planted. Not that being naturally planted is going to be such a big deal here in the future, because our Drecos are going to be giving us a lot of phosphorite that we can use to feed wheezeworts. But I say all that because up here we have a few naturally planted wheezeworts that we could use to provide some cooling for a spawn, say here, or over here. Either way though, there's not a lot of room, which means I need to do a lot more digging. And I think the priority, as it has been in the past few episodes, is going to be gutting through this area, because I think this whole biome is going to be a, quote, temporary polluted water storage. There's just way too much of it on the map, and I need to find a place to do something with it. Right now, the only entrance is in here, which is fine, because all the polluted oxygen comes out and gets cleaned by these deodorizers. In fact, I think I'm going to make this a little bit more robust, something like that, and then start digging through here. Of course, I am going to be very careful about staying away from this spore kid, because the only thing worse than a zombie outbreak with 20 duplicants is a zombie outbreak with 100. So when I am digging, I'm just going to leave this abyssalite intact. So I suppose it makes sense to do all the rough building first, which is going to be what's underwater. And as we dig out, the dupes will be less and less underwater, which the stress issues can start to add up. But it would be helpful to find out where the rows are, so I'm going to do a little bit of this action, just so I can line it up. Why do you look... Oh, we were going to do 7 high rows. That's right. 7 high rows it is, because that's what Past Echo ordered. The reason why we use 7 high rows in these big digs is because when a duplicate is standing here, they can dig down 3 tiles, and when a duplicate is standing here, they can dig up 4 tiles. So when you have this massive amount of digging to do, that normally comes with a lot of ladder building. Less ladder building means you're going to be done a lot quicker. Ooh, puffs. Puffs have become a lot easier to ranch since the advent of the critter pickup, and puffs can produce a lot of slime just from the polluted oxygen. And then we can take that slime and feed it into dust caps. So yeah, maybe a puff ranch is in our future too. I know I've spent a lot of time paused in this intro. It's because we have 30 seconds left before we get another duplicate, and I wanted to sort of catch up. I also had completely forgotten to build the other Great Hall. Let's get rid of that last one here. So there's been quite a few dupes who've been sitting on the ground. Sorry about that, dupes. My fault, you're bad. But I suppose that dupe is coming regardless if we want it or not, so let's get some digging done in here. There's 7 tiles there. So that is the floor, which is good to see. So now when we do something like this, our duplicates will be able to dig out every single bit of this without issue. I will trim off a little bit of the abyssalite here, and there's our pause on ready to print. And then I'll also dig out this portion here. I am going to be avoiding this cool steam vent, although there is already water in here. So maybe the next time it goes dormant, I just drop that water. Oh, what a mess. Where did this water even come from? Let me try doing a mop there. There's a little bit here. I guess I'll deal with that at the end, because I need to get rid of this water too. But the point I was going to make is I'm going to make this into its own tamer one day. For now, I just want to get this cool steam vent stifled, well, because the water here is 70 degrees, which of course is heating up the surrounding area. Let's go find out who our first dupe of the episode is, shall we? While it would be great to get our hands on the citrus spandex suit, because let's be honest, it's pretty classy, we're going to have to take this Ada. Ada is undigging, which is not great, but it's better than being unconstructive. Plus, Ada is quick learning. So there'll be a quick learning farmer operator? Welcome to the colony, duplicate number 27. Andy. Building priorities for Andy is a little weird. Oh no, who's suffocating already? Eilert? Really? You're suffocating in a pool? Get it together! As I was saying before we were rudely interrupted by Eilert, Andy is a weird one to prioritize because typically mechatronics engineers have operating and building, but Andy's also a farmer, so they do farming and ranching. Definitely one of the odder dupes that we have. Let's see, what hat are you gonna wear? I think you'll go with the operating hat once we get it. The reason why Ilart's suffocating is because they have slimelung, which makes them super duper slow. -3 to athletics from the slimelung, and their skill level is only a +1, so they have an overall athletics of -2. Now I'm going to be dealing with that quite a bit, as you can see by the train of duplicants coming down into here, which unfortunately has a lot of slimelung in here. But once they get it dug out, it won't be as much of a reoccurring problem. But until then, I really need to keep an eye on the dupes when they're in areas that are filled with water or carbon dioxide. They will be able to breathe once they're in the polluted oxygen. That way they can make their way out, but it's definitely going to be an issue. One little minor modification I have to make to the Pacu tank is putting a door in here. I'll also remove these ladders and build some like this. And the reason why we had to do that is because of this fish release that was counting all of the critters around the map. Well, we don't want it to count all the critters on the map, because then eventually they won't be able to put the correct amount of Pacu in here, which is 8. Our new mess hall is coming in right... No. We are not drinking out of the water cooler. I don't know what you think this is, but water's gonna be tight. Another thing that I'm keeping in the back of my brain is the fact that I really need a decorator. Doritos P is the closest one. Right now, they're aesthetic design. I'm going to wait until they're a Masterworks decorator so I can start putting paintings and stuff in the mess halls and really classing up this joint, because the decor is not great. And as you can tell from the skill points, well, we could use a little bit more morale. And one way to do that is make sure the dupes are living in a fancy place. Now, because of all this digging down here, the digging up here has pretty much stopped because it's further away than the digging in the slime biome. But because I need to plan the future of this colony, I'm going to turn this all to a priority of 6 so we can figure this out. Which also means I need to turn these ladders into a 6. Ooh, free calories. We will definitely enable auto harvest on you. Ooh, and you too. And you. And we have our first trap dupe here with JM Mort. What did you do? You're not trapped. You can run all the way over here. Oh, I see. It was 4 high. Why don't we go ahead and increase the priority of these ladders? That will definitely help. I feel like this geyser has been active for 73 cycles. Please, go dormant. Over on our metal refinery, I am starting to take all the iron ore that we find and infinitely turning it into steel. In order to do that, I am going to need some refined carbon and, of course, some lime. So I'm going to load up a little bit of coal here. We'll start it off with a priority of 4. The dupes will eventually get to it. And I'm also going to put a nice auto sweeper here. That way, the auto sweeper can not only load the coal into the kiln to make our refined carbon, but then take that refined carbon and put it into the metal refinery, along with any other ores that we need to process. Which reminds me, I probably should get a smart storage bin here for iron ore. And another one for completed lime. Don't think the auto sweeper can reach it, though. Not that it's a real big deal, though, because the lime's only going to be brought down to the metal refinery 10 kilos at a time every once in a while. But I can build it right there, and then the auto sweeper will have no problem getting the lime. Looking at the Dreco Ranch, as I sort of imagine a new design, I don't think I like the shape of this. The reason why is because I need to put down at least, say, 5 mealwoods, which is all great, and then we end up putting down a grooming station. Oh boy, who's suffocating now? You'll be fine just as soon as they finish this ladder. In fact, you'll be fine just as soon as they dig out that abyssalite. Here you go, breathe. I knew I should have put priority 0 on this. There's too many dupes, they do the things too fast. But then I also need a critter drop off, and then I need to put a shearing station, which is 3 tiles wide. So I think I need to extend this by 2 tiles. And when we do that, the 96 turns out to be about this size. And all of this, of course, is being mandated by the fact that I do not want a liquid lock here, because otherwise the dupes could just walk right up into the hydrogen if they were in a suit. But I haven't completely figured out how I want to do the suit system here. If there's going to be suits leading out of the base or just suits where we need them. Based on how many duplicants are going to be around here, I think it'd be better to have suits only where we need them. Lady Ruff's doing a great job despite their itchy eyes, yucky lungs, popped eardrums. You know, it's just all bad. It's not a great situation, but they're doing so well. Maybe suits on the outside of base is not so bad? I've got most of the framework done. It would work out a little bit better if this thing would ever go dormant, but so far, well, it is what it is. I'm having them build all the ladders where they can before we start doing the digging. This little area here is done, which is great. Oh, I can do a nice mop here, which will collect some of this water that's sitting up there. Completely forgot about this over here at the beginning of the episode, but you see, it's still staying ahead of the curve, which is good. I'm going to connect this first hydrogen generator to the automation. We're going to set it to 9060. That will work out well. I really need to start getting working on that next spawn. I really do enjoy the little small breaks, knowing that I have all the oxygen we need for our duplicants. But if I don't hurry, we're going to be behind the power curve again. I just can't make a decision of where I want the next spawn. Ooh, what do we got? A cool salt slush geyser. Erupting at -10C. Yeah, you're opening immediately. And I will do a nice dig down here. Yep, it's gonna be another itchy eye situation. But that's something the dupes are gonna have to live with. That doesn't look like 7 tiles. Ooh, that would have been close. Oh, the bleach stone alone is gonna wreck these dupes. I'm gonna have to make sure we do a quick sweep, but I do need to start letting this cool salt slush geyser erupt, which is gonna be helpful for a couple of reasons. First, it's gonna cool down this entire area, but it's also gonna give us our next calculation on how much water we have. Granted, brine's not the greatest, because you only get 70% of it after it's desalinated, but anything is better than nothing. I just realized we ran out of beds again. This is really starting to become inconvenient. Whose idea was to do this? We'll go with camping cots this time. How many beds have we been short and for how long? 8, 16, 24, 25, 26. Okay, it was just Andy that didn't have a place to sleep. We've got it fixed now. I've decided to redo the Dreco Ranch. Well, the box that I've been building for 2 episodes and keep changing my mind on how I want it to look. We're going to go back to the auto sweeper wit style, which means I need to build that back. But I've got a plan for this, and I think it's going to work out a lot better. Cycle 75, it's time for our next pod. Ah, squash fries. Oh no, and an aloe vera seed. The aloe vera seed would solve a lot of our oxygen routing issues because we could take all the water and instead of feeding it to electrolyzers, well, turn it into ice and feed aloe veras. That would have been pretty nice. Instead, we have our choices between a noodle arms dupe and a mouth breathing dupe. In this case, I think we have to go with the noodle arms because they will get a little bit stronger. Yeah, their max strength will never get higher than, say, a 17, but it's better than a dupe that's going to consume twice as much oxygen. Welcome to duplicate number 28, our researching rancher, Dave Hammer. The addition of the second hydrogen generator has really helped us out, but now I do not want them to do a 50-50 split because I'd rather save what oxygen we have for the grid when we need it. So in this case, we are going to be using a bridge, and in just the same way that the bridge prioritizes sending the hydrogen down to the hydro cooler, we're also going to prioritize sending the hydrogen over to the hydrogen generator that uses it for power instead of the burn-off generator that we're going to use as a last resort. Up in the top right, our cool salt slush geyser is starting to erupt with its -10 beautiful brine, and I am making a simple little tank up here. I think we're just going to use normal tiles. I don't mind getting some of the extra chill here, and maybe before I dig any more of this out, I should put a couple of tiles here. That way we don't waste too much brine when we lose it down to here. Who's starving now? Hurry up and go potty, Citrus. You're hungry. We also have another minor emergency, and that's the fact that we're down to 61 tons of dirt. And that may seem like a lot, but when every single mealwood is eating 10 kilos per cycle, that's not a number that I love to see. So I need to start putting down some other food types. I am working to build this out to add another ranch. The hatches are still coming along. We have 5 stone hatches into this ranch. And once we get the Drecos up, that'll be even more food, but I can't seem to decide on a design, so, you know, that's a whole issue. We have a lot of people that come by the Twitch stream, and often they're newer players. And they'll say, Echo, what tip do you give out for newer players? And the first thing I say is, don't take too many dupes too quickly. And often the second thing I say is, be careful with your duplicate labor. don't try to do too much at one time. And it seems like I don't take my own advice very often. Here's the quick list. We're digging up here to reveal this area because I do see some polluted water, so I'm hoping there's another polluted water vent or geyser up there. We're still working on our Dreco Ranch to include liquid locking it in and hopefully vacuum it out shortly. We're building a carbon dioxide collector so that way I can dump some carbon dioxide inside said Dreco Ranch. We're doing a bunch of digs in here to include a bunch of mesh tiles so I can get rid of all the regular water. That includes down here as well. We're building a tank for our cool salt slush geyser, which, by the way, we did finish analyzing. We'll get to that in a minute. And we're also doing research, and in this case, we're going towards atmosuits. So yeah, maybe I should concentrate on just one task at a time? Maybe? I just get sort of bored just sitting here and waiting for the dupes to finish, so I start queuing up more things. Our cool salt slush geyser did turn out to be a decent one. It produces an average output of 1,474 grams per second, but that's not the number that I wrote down. Because remember, when we take this brine and send it through a desalinator, we only end up with 70% of what we sent through. So the number I'm writing down is 1,032.9 grams per second, which gets us up to about 4,000 grams per second, which at first glance you may think, well, that's enough for one full spalm, and I've made this mistake frequently in the past, because you'll quickly look at an electrolyzer and say, hey, it requires 1,000 grams per second, times 4, 4,000 grams per second. The issue is, though, that the spalm itself can only produce enough oxygen to support 30 duplicants, and that's due to the fact that we only have 3 pipes coming out, each with 1,000 grams per second. So if we know the overall output of a spalm is oxygen for 30 duplicants, then we know that each electrolyzer is only producing oxygen for 7.5, because 7.5 times 4 is 30. Well, if we take that 7.5 and divide it by the 8.88 that it has a max capacity of producing, we're given 84.45%. In other words, the resources required to run this, to produce 84.45% of the oxygen that we're taking from it, is that same 84.45 times the 1 kilo per second, which ends up being, of course, 844.5 grams per second. When you multiply that times 4, 1 for each electrolyzer, it means that every single spalm that you have on your colony actually only requires 3.378 kilos per second of water. There's some math you never thought you'd actually didn't want to know. And now for our Cycle 78 pod, we actually get a choice of 3 different duplicants. I think we're kind of good on farmers for now. Meemaw seems decent as a pick 'em up and set 'em down dupe. I almost went with the nails because of the increase in science means they level up a little bit quicker. Hold on, let me see how many cooks we have so far. Hi Carol, how's it going? We have 3 cooks, Carol, the Luke, and Slurms. So yeah, I think we're gonna take nails. Sorry Meemaw. Welcome to the colony, duplicate number 29, Mr. DK Oz. I am keeping an eye on the electric grill and seeing what its usage is. And right now, its last 5 cycle uptime is 48%. So once it gets to around 70 or 80%, we'll end up putting in another electric grill. Incredibly, as we're exploring the northwest here, it looks like this biome still keeps going. There's a little bit of polluted water here, so we are going to dig up. Right now, all the polluted water that we have been digging through is just falling right down into these 2 tanks. One of them, of course, is for our metal refinery, which is good because it sort of needed a little plus up. Hence the reason I have this one little tile here. So when water does fall, it prioritizes going to this buffer tank first. And only once it gets this full, will it then spill over into this one. Oh dear goodness. J-Ray, get it together! Oh J-Ray, you better run a lot faster, buddy. Hi everyone, this is Editor Echo, and apparently Recording Echo didn't know what he was doing and recorded way too much footage for this particular episode. If left uncut, it would be almost an hour long, so we're gonna take the opportunity to give you the dreaded to be continued. Sorry about that, but 2 25-minute videos is a lot better than one 50-minute video, at least in Echo Ridge Gaming's use case. I hope you understand. Please feel free to yell at Recording Echo down in the comments below. He'll love to read them. So until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.